Erica, how you doing today?
Much better after seeing Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, I was happy about that.
Much better. I mean, honestly, it's a whole strategy, and I don't know why Kirk, well, I do know why, because he's stubborn, but he should have put Sullivan in way sooner.
Absolutely.
Way sooner. I think, honestly, I don't think we would have beat Ohio State, but I think we would have been a lot more competitive with Sullivan in there.
Well, I see it like this. In terms of their passing skills, we'll even give Cade the nod or the evens.
I think they're even.
Hang with me here.
Okay. Fair enough.
This is my reasoning for Sullivan. Even if we say that Cade, I'm not going to say is a better passer. Statistically, Brendan Sullivan is a better passer. The guy completed 69% of his passes at Northwestern against Big Ten opponents.
Right.
So anyway, Sullivan, I believe, is a better passer. Now, is he going to make anybody forget C.J. Stroud? No, he's not an NFL, like, carve him up, but he makes the consistent throws. He makes the obvious throws on time to the guys. And he
makes the makeables.
So, yes, he makes the makeables. So let's say they're even as passing quarterbacks. Sullivan is a huge upgrade as a threat to the defense, as a runner.
Yeah, and he proved that yesterday. It's exactly what happened.
And he's going to be your starting quarterback next year.
Right.
Give him experience.
Right.
And then on top of it, I got to say, and I'm not one that reads between the lines or tries to make statements mean something that I want them to mean, but it just appeared to me that every time we got an update during August camp, Tim Lester would simply make the very mundane, generic statements about Cade McNamara. He's still getting comfortable. He's still coming back from injury. Yep. We're measuring his progress, etc. But he made all sorts of exemplary type statements about Brendan Sullivan. He's one of the best I've ever seen at navigating a pocket.
Right.
He made all sorts of comments about how impressed he was with him.
100%, 150%. I mean, best case scenario, it was head and head until like 10 days before the season when they announced Cade as the starting quarterback. So that should tell you something already, right? It should tell you that Kirk and team are too stupid to give Sullivan, we're too stupid till now to give Sullivan a real true chance. Because if nothing else, they should have done what Michigan did with Cade and JJ McCarthy. If nothing else, give them both audition time. If they weren't sure about who to start at the beginning of the season, fair enough, okay?
Yes.
Let them try it on the field and see who's better on the field. Because frankly, this excuse that Kirk uses, oh, Cade is so good in practice. I don't give a crap about practice, okay? I want to see him during a game. And he proved he's no good during a game. I said this a million times on your channel. This is not your grandfather's Cade McNamara. It's just not. The experiment failed. We wasted our NIL money. We got, what's it called? Kirk had to sit out one of the games because we, cheated in the portal or whatever the hell it was. Like, the Cade experiment should be overdone. Yesterday proved it. And the reason why I agree with you about Sullivan, he's not an NFL quarterback. I know that. I'm not saying he is, because he is not. Absolutely not. But you know what he is? He's also a run threat. And what happened yesterday, everybody saw it. Defense had to think twice about whether or not to go after Caleb. Because when you have two people in there who present a running threat, it makes the defense second guess. And that's exactly what happened. And that's how we made the victory. We got the victory.
Even if you didn't watch the game and just looked at the box score, you would see that Sullivan was a little bit more efficient throwing the ball, but the stats were fairly similar. Although he did not throw, Cade McNamara got bailed out by a roughing the passer caller. He would have thrown 2 interceptions, and Sullivan threw none. And then on top of that, he ran for 41 yards on 6 attempts. That's 7 yards a carry. That's a whole different
right. He could be a running back with those types of numbers. Not that I'm saying, it adds a new threat, and it's something that we needed. Kirk is so stinking stubborn. I'm sorry. Like, there was a post on this Hawkeye message board I go to where the head of our NIL collective said that Kirk lets Lester make all the decisions about who to put in there on the offense side of the ball. I don't buy that 100%. I am sorry. I just don't buy it. And yesterday, If you saw the game yesterday, that is why. That is why.
Oh, I don't buy it either.
So I'm happy to have seen that.
I think we've got a little delay, so I apologize, Erica, if I step on some of your statements there. So Kirk, there's part of me that can respect this and admire this, that I think that there's some kind of false loyalty built in, that once he names a starter, especially at that position, that he just feels like he is obligated to it, or that he owes that player something for some reason. He doesn't owe the player. They're all competing for positions.
Yeah, and you know what? We were talking about that yesterday on Corey's show, that if you look at the defensive side of the ball, or the running back room, or the tight end room, they're switching people in and out to see who works best. Same with the O-line. Quarterback is the only position where they don't do that.
Xavier Wampa
It is
had
the
a
only
bad game against
position.
Iowa State and got benched.
What's that?
Xavier Wampa had some bad plays against Iowa State and got sent to the sideline.
Exactly. So it's going on with almost every position on the field is needed except quarterback. What does that tell you? And this is a consistent thing. This didn't just start this year.
This is what I think it is, Erica. I think, number one, because Kirk's actually said this, we know what Cade's done. We've seen him on tape.
Oh, God. Yeah,
that was 3 years ago.
Right?
That was 3 years ago.
That was before he was injury prone.
That's an eternity.
If Cade hadn't gotten injured twice, okay, then maybe I would understand that argument a little bit better. But we have to work in reality here.
Yes, we have to work in reality and what is currently happening. And Cade McNamara, another update for Kirk is that he was a good quarterback in 2021, but he was in an ideal situation.
Right. He was surrounded by highly ranked players and highly skilled players. Now, I'm not saying that Iowa is crap at like all this,
Sure.
you know, because actually I think, like we all know, they're tight end university, even though this year you wouldn't know that, but that's another point I'll get to in a minute. But look, like, you can't compare the type of talent that Iowa gets to Michigan's, because although Michigan does develop players like similar to Iowa does, that's how Iowa makes their bread and butter. Their bread and butter is by developing 3-star, low-rated recruits. So you're just not going to get as competitive of skill player at Iowa as Cade had at Michigan. It just doesn't work that way in the current way, you know, in the current world of college football. That may change one day. I don't know. But as it stands today, that's just how it is. And so that comparison that Kirk constantly makes about, oh, look at what Cade did. Look at what Cade did. It's invalid because of the injury thing, and also because of the weapons that Cade had at Michigan. That's just what it is.
Yeah, Cade had a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. So he apparently had the best offensive line in America and 2 great running backs. Now, Caleb Johnson obviously is one of the best running backs in the nation. So there are similarities there. But again, that was 3 years ago, and he was in an ideal situation there. And I just believe that it's Cade McNamara that Kirk is enamored with. He won a championship at Michigan. He has a name. People know who he is. When he transferred, it was a big deal. And he gave him the starting job. You brought up NIL. There's a commitment. There is a investment there. Therefore, I think that is clouding Kirk Ferentz's judgment.
Yep. And look at what Doc P just wrote in the chat. Can you bring up his comment?
McCann, Banks, Christensen, Stanzi, and Michigan transfer guy and Beathard, all examples of his times that he was wrong playing quarterbacks.
Yeah, so he has a history of this stuff. This isn't a new thing for Kirk. His judgment concerning quarterbacks is alarming, especially when his son was the quarterback coach until last season and the 2 seasons or 3 seasons before. Like, that says it all. That just says it all. You don't even need to know anymore. The fact that he had his son be the quarterback coach, that tells you all you need to know when you're talking about Kirk Ferentz and quarterbacks. I'm not saying Kirk is a horrible, coach, or that he doesn't know anything about offense, because we know that's not true. But come on, he is not, Jim R. KF is not a quarterback whisperer. Exactly right.
Yeah, I don't know that in all the time that I've covered this sport, whether it's the various jobs I've had or doing what I'm doing now, that I've run across a situation where there is a program that continues to work in these silos that are so exceptionally great and so horribly horrific, to be redundant, than Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've said before, Iowa is in a unique position when you look at them against everyone else in college football. And this is another way in which it's a unique situation. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I know any other head coaches who would have held out Salon on Cade. I'm sorry. I just don't. And I don't buy that Kirk, gives the keys to Lester in this regard. I'm sorry. I just don't. Lester is too smart to think that Cade should have been QB this whole time. He is too smart. He's proven that by the way he calls his plays, and by the way he talks about offense. If you've heard any of his press conferences or anything or interviews, he's too smart to buy into that. There's no way that was him.
I think that we're already seeing the Tim Lester effect on the wide receiver play, that even though they don't get many opportunities, that the wide receivers are much better this year than they've been the last several years.
And indeed, and that's another knock against Cade. You want to know why? Because there have been so many times each of the games, and I've watched obviously every Iowa game this year, there have been so many times where wide receivers and tight ends, for that matter, ran their routes properly and were open in the end zone. And Cade did not see them. I've said this before. I don't remember if it's your channel or on Corey's, but that's one of the problems with Cade. He does not have any vision. He has no downfield vision. I'm not saying Sullivan does, because we haven't seen enough of him to make that judgment yet. But Cade, I can speak with confidence. He does not have that vision, because the wide receivers and the tight ends too, there have been many, many times this season where they're in the end zone, totally open, totally uncovered, and Cade does not throw it to them.
I am right there with you.
That's just facts. And yeah, Lester also, he is known for wide receivers. Like, if I remember correctly, when he was at Western Michigan, he had some wide receivers who went on to the NFL, right?
Well, what's impressive about that is he had 3 wide receivers in a short period of time, 3 consecutive years, where he had wide receivers that he developed to go to the NFL. And we're not talking about, we're talking about at Western Michigan.
Right.
So we're not talking about, it could be argued, let's say at Ohio State, that they bring in these 5-star wide receivers. They're amazing. And they even develop the wide receivers to be even better to be prepared for the NFL. But let's say they didn't. But
this is Western Michigan.
They were just able to grab these great 5-star wide receivers and just let them play. They don't develop them. They're still just so talented. They go to the NFL. No, he took guys that are they're not even physical specimens. Corey and I went through this one time. Their heights and their weights, they're like little guys, and they were not recruited highly. They had no offers from any big schools. And it's not even though they let them play at Western Michigan and then some NFL team just kind of found a diamond in the rough as a free agent or a late round draft pick. No, he made them into high NFL picks. They were all first and second round players.
Exactly. And I'm just
very impressive. I don't know that I can cite another example like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that Lester is a QB guy, but he, apparently is good at helping to develop wide receivers too, which is a huge deal because Iowa needs that. And now I would argue that our wide receiver room, you can see the difference. You can see it. I'm not saying they're Ohio State, don't get me wrong, but they are much better than what Iowa has had in the last few years.
Absolutely.
And we all know why that is. The problem is the vision that Cade lacks. That is the issue. I also am not sure if it's vision or confidence either, because we know that Cade isn't world beaters in passing, doing long passes. So maybe he's scared to make the passes. I don't know what it is. But for whatever reason, there have been a number of times where, Casey said, and it happened yesterday, he's 100% right, Jacob Gill was open a couple times yesterday and Cade didn't even look his way. That has happened with Luke Lachey as well a number of times throughout the season, which is ridiculous because everybody knows about Luke's ability when it comes to, his tight end abilities and receiving ball.
Now, to be fair, Cade did unleash one long ball to Seth Anderson, and it was a decent pass. Most wide receivers would not have caught that ball. It was a great catch.
Yeah.
It was thrown a little bit too far, but he
still managed. He still brought it in. I think Seth Anderson is going to be great. I think he has a lot of potential. I also wanted to, since we're talking about offense at Iowa, one thing I wanted to mention about Lester, who, as you can tell, I'm a big fan of his. I wasn't sold on him at first when the decision was made, but I have to say he's earned my respect. I like him a lot.